And then women's sports, there's a huge and important wave of celebrating female athletes, female influencers, female team-led organizations. How are you addressing this? You probably have a lot of great ideas up your sleeve on how, Gymshark wants to address this, but I'm curious on your take on that.
Yeah, 100%. So that billboard, man, the stress to make that billboard look right was it's so hard. And like again, to any like would-be marketeers out there, sometimes these causes are just willing to fight for. Do you know what I mean? Like if you don't know, Liana is just like Liana's just one of the most incredible women I've ever met in my life. And like she's one of the fastest growing influencers on the well, fitness influencers and influencers on the planet. She's like on a journey with Islam, and she's recently started wearing the hijab, and that was like a new thing for her. It was big news, and I think that was both some people sort of not rejected her for it, but probably moved away from her because of that reason, because they felt like they didn't really resonate with her anymore. But as you can imagine, a lot of like hijabi women out there felt even drawn even closer to her, right? So I think any good brand and talent deal in 2023 has to be authentic, right? And you have to go on this journey with your people. So this idea of, as part of our Every Strong Belongs campaign, putting Liana on a billboard and really making a thing of the fact she's wearing a hijab, not hiding away from it in the slightest, and actually putting the physical hijab over the top of her was such an incredible idea. And by the way, I'm not bigging up myself when I say that. I think a lot of CMOs and business people come on here and talk about all my great ideas. Like, no, I don't do any of that. I sit in a meeting room and do boring stuff like budgets and approve. Do you know what I mean? Next year's plans. It's the geniuses at Gymshark that make the work come to life. So that's their work, not mine. But I think there is a job of those leaders to do to set up a culture where they feel they can bring ideas out to the table. When I first saw that mock up of that billboard, I was like, yo, I'm so here for that. That's amazing. But pulling it off, nightmare. And at first it looked terrible. And you know what I mean? But whenever you're breaking new ground and you're trying to do something people haven't done before, it's always going to be tough. So that was really, really worth it. The women's sports thing, I agree with you. It's a huge conversation at the moment. Team sports aren't really a thing for Gymshark. You might notice that men's or women's, we don't really do the team sport thing. That's kind of not what we're built on. We're born out of the gym. We're born out of this thing of like the individual pursuit, do you know what I mean? And like what you can do for yourself. But with that in mind, we do get involved in some sports where it's an individual. So like boxing, for example, we sponsor Francis Ngannou, heavyweight champion of the UFC, and now obviously going off to fight Tyson Fury in the battle for the baddest motherfucker on the planet that they're having in Saudi soon, which should be cool. But we also sponsor, and again, for any of your listeners, I will always tell this story because I want more people to know about it. Katie Taylor, she's from Dublin in Ireland. Katie, when she first got into boxing, women weren't allowed to box in Ireland, so she used to scrape her hair back and they'd put the sparring helmet on her first, and she would enter fights as Kane Taylor, right? And she'd go in there and just beat the shit out of guys, right? And she was like, and she had this like incredible journey as a boxer. The Olympic Commission, the Olympic Committee, whatever their official title is,
Yeah.
saw the rise of Katie in Ireland, saw how well she was doing. They made women's boxing an Olympic sport because they wanted Katie to compete in the Olympics, right? Which was just a phenomenal thing. So she single-handedly carried women's boxing on her back. She's a Gymshark athlete, by the way. We sponsor her, I should say that. So
But
she managed to get women's boxing into the Olympics. Then she won gold at the Olympics, right? Now she's like run through everybody in boxing. She's won like all the belts at one weight class, and then she just recently stepped up to try and take some belts in another. So you could probably hear in parallels here, right, to another Irish combat star who did the exact same thing. Well, actually, kind of did less really because he didn't have to get let into the UFC in Conor McGregor. Now they've done very, very similar things, multiple belts, multiple weight classes, whatever else. But I bet you guys have never heard Katie's name, right? So stuff like that, like we're trying to put her on as much as possible. We go back to Ireland after her last fight. We had her do a 5K run around Dublin, and we invited all the girls from local boxing schools out to come and see her because this term gets used a lot in terms of diversity and inclusion, but I think it can be used for so many other things. But if you can see it, you can be it, right? So for those girls, you can imagine to go for a run with Katie, who holds all the titles, who got a gold in the Olympics for the country, all that kind of stuff, for them to be able to literally go on a run alongside her through the streets of Dublin, that's like someone running through the streets with Muhammad Ali. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully one day there'll be a whole other generation of young female boxers, all because one day Gymshark decided to put on this event where you could go for a run with Katie Taylor. So yeah, man, we do our bit. As always, I wish we could do more, but I think the stuff we always do is really, really authentic, and we'll always fight to do as much as we can.